Yeah, that's right. Welcome in, welcome back, folks, to a In the Navy. You can sail the seven seas edition of the Always Irish Show. Welcome in, welcome back, folks. Obviously, you can find this program on YouTube. Do it, subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps me as well. Notifications on. You'll be alerted every time a new episode drops. Something we got to go over. You don't want to miss it. Twitter. Search bar Always Irish or at Always Irish Inc. Emails alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only. Anywhere you want me, you can find me 312-900-8815. Call-in line. Fighting Irish Wire, folks. Make it a part of your daily Notre Dame media routine. So, here we are. I don't know about you, but I'm still riding high from Clemson. It's almost like I wish we had a bye week this week so that we could ride this Clemson wave out a whole nother week and how good that feels and talk about it. Like, after what I deem to be the most impressive Notre Dame victory in the last 30 years, probably since 93 Florida State, I want to sit on it longer, but we got another game. We got another game this week, and it's against a unique opponent. A very familiar one, by the way, to all of us. But that's what's interesting here. It's like I'm a lot more interested in thinking about how Clemson made me feel than analyzing chop blocks. And it's like, well, John, and I heard this in the call-in show earlier. It's like, well, John, you can't look ahead and you can't look back and you can't look ahead to USC. Who's you? I'm not coaching or playing. I could look ahead to anything I want, right? Like on my show, I can look forward to anything I want. So, it's the team can't get full of themselves and look ahead of anything, but I'm not them. And so that's where I'm at. It's just hard to want to turn the page from the Clemson eye into the next ball game. But we got to do it. We got to do it and look at what comes next. All right. So, and really, there's some interesting dynamics here that roll off of Clemson and the way it went that are interesting to see how they're going to play out in this ball game now. And we'll get to that. There's an interesting connection there, and we're going to go over it. Okay. Listen, Navy's down. Even for Navy, they're down. And now I think they got a backup quarterback. It's not like they throw the ball a lot anyways, but maybe it's more decision-making, keep it or give it, running ability. They only threw 12 passes last week. So how much does a backup quarterback matter to Navy? I don't know. Maybe you tell me it's critically important to know what guy to give the ball to on all their plays or something. I don't know. Passing the ball, how could you worry about it? They only threw 12 last week, and now they have a backup. So I don't know. And the other thing is, I don't know how much Notre Dame's going to want or need to throw the ball either. If you got a light front on Navy, maybe you could just run the ball the whole day if you want, and pick your spots for shots. That'd be my guess. Here's my guess. I'm guessing you're going to see Notre Dame run heavy when Navy puts so many bodies in there to try and stop it. Mike Mayer, these guys are going to be open. That's just what I see. Even for Navy, it's a down Navy team, 3-6. 3-6 with their schedule, that's bad. That's just bad, okay? So they're in a down bad way, even for them. So here's where I think I got to start. I don't expect Notre Dame to have the same energy and vibe as last week. And the reason I don't expect that is it's unrealistic to ask for that. It is. Like, you say you're a football player, you should be jacked up for every game and all that. Yeah, yes. But these are human beings with natural human emotions and reactions to things. The dynamic and the setup for last week's game lended itself to big-time emotions. And a lot there and a lot on the line with recruiting in the game and national credibility and everything else. Clemson season undefeated, all of that. You can't manufacture that energy. You can't manufacture that vibe. You can't. Some environments just lend themselves to that. Bush push lended itself to that naturally. 93 Florida State lended itself to that dynamic naturally. 88 Miami, same thing. Clemson last week. Like, there's certain setups you just know are going to be huge. Notre Dame at Ohio State earlier this year. Not at our place, but that same dynamic. You can't create that vibe. I don't expect it this week. I don't, because it's unrealistic and it's just not how it's going to be. That being said, the biggest question about this Navy game to me is, how does Notre Dame start out the game? It is my number one thing I'm just intrigued to see. And is it like that's the next evolution out of this Notre Dame team? You made a huge statement about the present and the future with what you did against Clemson, and it was wonderful. Now I'm getting greedy. Now that I see that high-end potential under what will be Marcus Freeman's most limited team the whole time he's at Notre Dame. This is going to be the least talent on the roster right now. Look what he was able to get them to do. Very, very impressive. So you made a statement last week. The energy was at an all-time high. Now what? Now what? Is this a dynamic where it's an early, sleepy start in cloudy Baltimore, and you've been partying all week, and everybody like me has been patting you on the back and on the fanny saying, good job, and it goes back to Stanford where you just think you can roll the ball out there and win? You do that against Navy, you're in trouble because they can eat up the clock on you if you let them. You can't afford to do that. Give away possessions, that kind of thing in a Navy game. So it's a big question I have. Are you going to start out where you left off last week? Fired up, angry, feeling like you're good, feeling like you're better than you get credit for, and go in there with an attitude and a new swag and perform great and blow these guys out? Or are we sleepwalking? We've been reading our press clippings all week, and then, we're distracted by that. And then it's a struggle. Or is it somewhere in the middle? That is the number one dynamic I'm looking for this week. I want to know how you're going to show up after all that went into last week. How are you going to show up this week? I want to know. I got to know. Trap game? Not really. How can you say it's a trap game? It's Navy. It's unique. You know it's unique. It requires unique preparation in practice. Like, the Navy game can never sneak up on Notre Dame. I go over this every year. I know the war story. I respect the history. I respect Notre Dame honoring the commitment. I get the respect between both teams with the alma maters after the game. I love all of that. You guys follow this show. You know I'm a student of college football history, and I love and respect that dynamic. While saying that, the next sentence out of my mouth is, I hate this game every year. It's my least favorite game by far. So whatever. Like, I'm being as honest as I can. I respect the story and the history behind it, and I hate this game. It is my least favorite game to watch Notre Dame play every year. I hate it. It's how the game's played is why I hate it. Think about it. The way they run the triple option, try and eat up a whole bunch of clock. What that does is shortens the game, and it makes you have to play a better game because your possessions are limited and the time you're going to have is limited. So whenever you play Navy, it's frustrating. You're going to get a limited amount of possessions, and you need to take advantage of all of them. All right? If you let a team like Navy run the option to eat up 8 or 9 minutes of clock, you have a couple turnovers. That's how you're a better team overall, but end up in a dogfight against Navy. So that's the first reason I hate this game is they shorten the game and give you less possessions by the way they operate their offense. That means even though you have more talent and are bigger and all that stuff up front, you got to do the right things or you're in trouble. So them shortening the game is always annoying to me. It puts pressure on the opponent. That's why teams that don't have the talent run this kind of offense to make it more efficient, eat up the clock, move the ball the way they can. Okay. So that's number one reason I hate this game. Number two is it's just a unique physical toll that I hate. Even though they're starting to get away from letting some of the cut block stuff be a thing still, even though they're starting to get away from that, it is a unique physical toll, the way they block and the way they hit and the way they play. I just don't like it. It lends to injuries or at a minimum, a challenging week to recover going into the next game. So for those reasons, I hate this game. Least favorite game on the schedule every year. Frustrates me every year. Don't like it. Respect the history. Don't get me twisted. Both can be true. Respect the history of why the game's played fully, and at the same time, hate the actual game every year. All right? So that's where I'm at. Notre Dame 17.5-point favorite. Early start in Baltimore. They have crappy weather this time. It could just be a sleepy noon start without the juice we had last week. I don't know. The interesting thing is 17.5-point favorite for Notre Dame. The interesting part is, do you get enough possession somehow to get up by 21 points? Like, that takes a lot the way Navy plays for you to have enough possessions to get the ball back to win by 18 or 21. So that's what I find interesting about that spread, the way they try and limit your time and possessions. So I'm wondering about the start. I don't like the cut blocks. You got the option. Any mistakes you make fumbling the ball or turning it over could cost you huge when they're going to eat up the clock the way they do. Ball security is paramount whenever you're playing Navy. It just is. It has to be. You cannot give them the ball. You're asking for a long day. You're asking for a long ass day. You do that. Okay. Is this a ball game where Notre Dame gets ahead to the point where Angeli sees meaningful time? Well, I asked that a lot. I thought Stanford could be that game. So who knows if we're ever going to see that, but it's on my mind. And it's like, how is Notre Dame's offensive game plan here? Not to run it north-south with your two big backs as much as you want. And then when they put enough little short, undersized submarine dudes in there, then you find Mayer and it looks like he's running by the Munchkin land scene in The Wizard of Oz, just knocking these little guys off. Like, if you're able to line up and run the ball for 263 on Clemson's front, what are you going to do against Navy when all those guys up front are half the size and bulk of Clemson? Like, this is just a size physicality mismatch. And so I just think that's got to be the angle for Notre Dame, right? Unless Tommy wants to get wild and just start throwing the ball because he thinks he can and build that up. But if you were going to be conservative at all, it's pound the ball, pound the ball, pound the ball. You're eating time, push them off the ball, pick your spots for a pass. I see Michael Mayer open on a crossing route over the middle of the field all day. Mismatches physically, if a linebacker's on him all day. Like, there's going to be stuff there. It's just a matter of what Notre Dame wants to do. And so, I don't know. You use this as your ramp up. Listen, I know we can't look ahead. I am looking ahead. Get this to 10 wins. It'd be a miraculous turnaround. Ramp off this win, ramp off BC, and then get ready for a big showdown with USC. All right? And then that puts you at 9-3, looking at a decent bowl game. Get your 10 wins. And then that builds you into next year. We're off to the races with the recruiting and everything else comes together. Marcus is a further year down the road, how to be a head coach, blah, blah, blah. It's all good. Let's go. Let's go. But it all starts here. There's a new energy, a new vibe, a new outlook. There's reaffirmed credibility we didn't have before. A lot of things changed in last week's game. 10-3 is now the goal, and it's a realistic one. Build a ramp to USC. What an unreal salvage job that is. If he pulls that off, it's an unreal salvage job. Getting 3 losses before mid-October and parlaying it into 10 wins and a bowl win, unbelievable job. Terrific. So what are some of your keys? You can't turn the ball over, obviously, because they eat up so much clock. Run the ball at will. Usually I say north-south's the way. They're going to be able to get to the edge on these guys too. So if it's Diggs and Estebe north-south and it's Tyree out on the sides, you should be able to flank the edge on these guys and do whatever you want. Okay, you should. So run the ball at will. Here's where this gets very interesting to me. I always talk about this on Navy Weeks. This is very interesting to me in a lot of ways. Defensively is where I find this being most interesting this week. Okay. So discipline. Defending Navy comes down to assignment, sound, discipline. All right. Know your role, know where you're supposed to be, stay in your lane, stay in your assignment, stay disciplined, gap integrity. It always gets talked like know where you're supposed to be, stay disciplined. And then here's the other thing that always comes up with Navy. Crisp tackling is so important when you play Navy. The way they run that offense, sometimes there's a lot of times where you get a hand on a guy, but don't wrap him up. And then the first guy misses and then they get a first down and then they eat up another 9 minutes of the clock. Crisp tackling and discipline is key to playing defense against these guys. Now, going into Clemson, crispness of the defense as far as tackling, angles, wrapping up, big hits, not missing guys, gang tackling, that was all kind of not where I wanted it to be. Clemson, it was exactly where I wanted it to be. They were defending them exactly how I wanted to. Good angles, crisp tackling, not a lot of misses, gang tackling. Love it. Lot better job last week. I got to see that continue. Navy is a great coaching test. Navy always is, for all the reasons we discussed. In the midst of all the excitement and the hoopla from last week, let's see how this staff gets our guys prepared for this unique physical and mental challenge. How do you get them to understand it's okay to ride that energy from last week, feel better about yourself, and also focus on Navy and what you got to do? All right? You got to be able to do both. So, great coaching test. You know, Al Golden's seen the option before. So's Freeman. How are they setting this up? It's a big deal. So I want to see how they do in that part of this game. What do I want to happen? I want Notre Dame to just steamroll these guys. Run it over it, pass it over them, stop their dumb option, force some negative plays, force turnovers, like parlay this to where Navy and Boston College games are not close. And then Notre Dame's running into the USC game with as much momentum as any team who has 3 losses by October 15th could possibly have. It would be physically impossible to have more momentum as a 3-loss team before October 16th to be able to rope off all these wins, a huge win against Clemson, building into this big showdown in LA. That's the path. All right? This is getting exciting. We're turning a corner. Playing good against Navy is a unique test. It's a challenge. How do you come off that emotional high thinking you're awesome and then zone into your unique, challenging assignments to slow down Navy? It's a big deal, and I'm wondering how it's going to go. But I'm going to turn this game on in a lot better mood than I've turned on any game in recent history for Notre Dame. Things are trending up. Let's get this win, knock off BC, whether Phil plays or not, and get ready for the Coliseum. Let's do it. Talk to you.